Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take source material, dig into it, and pull out the most fascinating insights and, well, those surprising moments you might miss.
And today, we're really getting into something special. A story about love, about loss, and just the sheer weight of time. It's quite a narrative.
It really is. We're looking at how two people handle grief, what society expects of them, and how they find their way back to each other, but not in the usual ways.
Definitely not.
Our goal here is to, extract the wisdom, maybe even the humor hidden in the story, to help understand how relationships work, especially later in life.
Yeah, because what happens when love isn't just that first flush of youth, but something that spans decades, something that evolves.
Exactly. So let's dive in.
Okay, so right at the start, we're dropped into FERMINA DAZA's life just after this huge loss.
Mhm.
And her reaction to Florentino Ariza, it's kind of stunning.
It's wild, isn't it? She writes him this letter, absolutely furious, pouring out all this anger. The source says things like crudest words, unjust vilifications. She wants him gone.
Completely.
Hmm.
It's meant to be a final goodbye, an exorcism.
But he gets it and thinks. It's a love letter, a sign of hope. How does that even happen? Is it just pure obsession? Or maybe, seeing what you want to see?
I think it says a lot about his focus, yeah.
Hmm.
His entire life is sort of revolved around this one idea. But for Fermina, this is happening while she's completely adrift.
Adrift is a good word. After 50 years of marriage, she feels like, what was it? A ghost in a strange house?
Exactly. And she asks herself that devastating question. Which of them was deader, the man who had died or the woman he had left behind? That's a profound loss of self.
And the grief isn't abstract, it's so physical. The text talks about his pajamas, his slippers, even his smell.
The odor of his skin.
Right, and she compares it to amputees feeling pain in a missing limb, feeling his presence where he just isn't anymore. It's such a powerful image.
It really cuts deep. And that raw feeling that leads her to do something drastic, this ritual of eradication.
Ugh, yeah, the burning. She decides to burn everything. His clothes, his shoes, even his hats, which, the source notes, resembled him more than his portraits.
Which is quite a statement. And it's poignant when you remember her husband, Juvenal, actually wanted to be cremated.
But his religion wouldn't allow it.
Right. So Fermina, in this quiet act, asks the carpenter to leave a little crack in the coffin, a chink where light could come into it. A small defiance, maybe a final connection for him.
But even after burning everything, this holocaust, as it's called, it doesn't work, does it? His memory sticks around.
Not at all. Even the annoying things, like his noises on horizon.
Yeah, the little everyday irritations.
Exactly. And here's the twist. Those mundane, even annoying memories, they actually help her. They help her escape the mangrove swamps of grief.
Isn't that something? Not the big, grand memories, but the small, quirky, maybe even irritating things providing comfort. How does that work?
Well, I think it shows how complex grief and memory are. It's not always about idealizing the past. Sometimes it's the real imperfect details that anchor us.
That makes sense.
And it leads her to this really honest thought later about her marriage. Wondering how one can be happy for so many years in the midst of so many squabbles and not really know if it was love or not.
That's brutally honest. It challenges the whole fairy tale idea of marriage.
It does, and it kind of echoes her husband's view, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That the most important thing wasn't necessarily happiness, but stability.
Stability over constant bliss. Maybe that was their foundation. And speaking of things sticking around, what about all her stuff?
Right.
The trinkets from travels.
Oh, right. The clutter. She's drowning in things with no purpose. And that line, someone should invent something to do with things you cannot use anymore, but that you still cannot throw out.
It's so relatable. We've all been there. And her
Yeah.
solution is just hide it.
Yep. Yeah, just hide the disorder. It's a very human touch.
So while Fermina is in this private wilderness dealing with grief and memory and clutter, Florentino is having a very different kind of reaction.
Oh, absolutely. After declaring himself again, he's described as feeling like he'd killed the tiger and now had no idea what to do with the body.
Killed the tiger. What's that about? Just pure panic after finally acting.
Panic, desperation maybe.
Yeah.
It sends him scrambling for comfort, for any female companionship. He ends up at Prudencia Petre's house, the widow of two, at 2 in the morning.
2 a.m. Carrying port and pickles. That's quite the entrance.
It is. And her comment, "You look as if you are going to a funeral."
Ah.
And his response, it's heartbreaking. He says he's crying tears he'd been swallowing for 51 years, 9 months, and 4 days.
Wow. All that pent-up emotion just spilling out after half a century.
Exactly. And then After this release, he does something kind of unexpected. He decides to modernize his approach.
The typing, right. Learns to type in 3 days, even with people joking about old dogs and new tricks. He sees that furious letter from Fermina as his chance.
His opportunity, yeah.
Yeah.
And his new strategy is fascinating. No more flowery poetry.
No, these are different. Rational 6-page letters. Meditations on life, love, old age, death. Disguised as just an old man's memories.
But with a clear goal.
Yeah.
To teach her about love as a state of grace.
Yeah.
His concept of it. And he's so methodical, numbering them like chapters in a serial novel.
And mailing blank pages to himself so no one gets suspicious. It's quite the operation, calculated yet deeply felt somehow.
There's a strange mix. But this single-minded focus, it has consequences. Serious ones.
Ah, yes. The source brings up America Vicuña, his young ward.
Who apparently develops feelings for him, unnoticed. The text mentions how women can become adults in 3 days. And that kind of emotional turmoil.
And the outcome is just tragic. Her mortal depression, drinking laudanum. It's a very dark shadow.
It really is. And it forces us to remember his past actions too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Assaulting a maid, leaving her pregnant.
Right. It complicates his character immensely. This supposed state of grace, love, clearly didn't extend everywhere. There's collateral damage to his obsession.
A lot of it. It's a stark contrast.
So, Florentino's sending these carefully crafted letters. Fermina's processing her grief. And then comes this moment. Very quiet, almost easy to miss.
At Juvenal Urbino's memorial mass.
Yes. She just turns to Florentino and says, "Thank you for coming." Simple words.
But they mean everything. They mean she read the letters, and maybe more, that she found something in them, serious and thoughtful reasons to go on living.
That's a huge shift. And then the dynamic flips completely, doesn't it?
It really does. Suddenly, Fermina's the one offering wisdom. She tells him, "Why do you insist on talking about what does not exist? Basically, stop living in the past."
And she urges patience. Let time pass, and we will see what it brings. She's the grounded one now.
She is. She's become the pragmatist.
Yeah.
Which leads to these visits.
The Tuesday rituals. I love this part. It sounds so gently awkward.
It does. He brings treats from the European ships, and always a single white rose carefully dethorned.
Why white? Oh, right, red would be too passionate for a widow. Yellow implies jealousy. He's still calculating.
Always. But there's warmth, too. Like that funny argument they have about him once mentioning camellias decades ago.
And they end up laughing because it's so absurd at their age. It shows they can find that playfulness again.
Which is lovely. But not everyone sees it that way. Society, or at least her family, has opinions.
Ah, the son, Dr. Urbino Daza. He has some pretty stark views on aging.
Very pragmatic, almost cold. Believes older people should basically be isolated for their own good to avoid the humiliation of old age. He even suggests 70 should be the cutoff for healthy life.
Ouch. That's grim. And Florentino's existence, their connection just flies in the face of that.
Completely. There's that great line where Florentino points out he's older than Fermina and has been since long, long before you were born. It highlights the absurdity of the son's neat categories.
Yeah, life's messier than that. And then things get really messy with that public scandal.
Like newspaper articles.
Yeah.
The Justice paper runs these awful false stories about Fermina's late husband and his niece, Lucretia.
Implying an affair, but then it also digs up the truth about Fermina's own father, Lorenzo Daza.
Right. Counterfeit money, dealing arms with Joseph Conrad, of all people. And the weird detail about the single-footed boots.
It's a lot, and it apparently annihilated Fermina.
Understandably. But then something shifts. It brings back her untamed character.
Yeah.
Her fighting spirit.
And Florentino steps up, writes this exemplary letter defending her, standing by her publicly.
It's a key moment. But the biggest confrontation is still to come. With her daughter, Ophelia.
Oh, this is intense. Ophelia basically says their relationship is disgusting. Love is ridiculous at our age, but at theirs, it is revolting.
It's brutal judgment.
But Fermina's reply, it's incredible. She says, "A century ago, life screwed that poor man and me because we were too young, and now they want to do the same thing because we are too old."
What a line. It captures everything. The injustice, the defiance.
And then she adds, "If we widows have any advantage, it is that there is no one left to give us orders." Boom. Independence declared.
Absolutely liberating. And that feeling seems to propel her next decision. The riverboat trip.
Right. She's feeling superfluous in her own home, needs a change, and she insists on arranging it herself. No one take care of me.
Total self-reliance. But then, of course, her family sees Florentino is also going on the trip.
And their reaction is just dripping with judgment. The son's look of panic, the wife's loaded, "You too!"
Yeah, the implication is clear. This is indecent.
Yeah.
They just don't get it.
So they set off on this trip, and the river itself, the Magdalena, it's not what Florentino remembers, is it?
Not at all. It's muddy and narrow. The forests are gone. The animals, manatees, parrots, monkeys, they're exterminated.
A ravaged landscape. There's that sad story from the captain about the last manatee he saw.
A powerful symbol of time passing, of loss. It mirrors their own aging, in a way. The world has changed around them, just as they have changed.
But the hardships on the trip, the boat breaking down, Fermina losing some hearing after an earache, they don't drive them apart.
Quite the opposite. The source says, love becomes greater and nobler in calamity. Sharing adversity deepens their bond somehow.
It strips away the pretense, maybe, and leads to, well, to intimacy.
Yes, and it's handled so honestly. Fermina decides they should do it like grown-ups. The description of their aged bodies isn't romanticized, it's real.
She feels an initial emptiness, it says, but then finds this simple joy of being together. It's not about passion anymore.
Not in the same youthful way. It's evolved into this tranquil, wholesome love of experienced grandparents, going straight to the heart of love, beyond just the physical. It's a different kind of fulfillment.
A deeper kind, maybe, but then reality intrudes again. At the final port, Fermina sees people she knows.
And she's horrified. The thought of gossip, of judgment after everything.
But Florentino, ever the strategist, comes up with this wild plan.
Utterly brilliant in its own way. Raise the yellow collar flag on the ship.
Pretend there's an outbreak so they'll be quarantined, forced to stay on the river.
Exactly. To remain in their own world, away from society's rules indefinitely. It's radical.
It's the ultimate commitment, really. Choosing isolation together over facing the world's disapproval. And that final exchange with the captain.
When the captain asks how long they can keep this up, this back and forth on the river,
Florentino has his answer ready. An answer he's apparently held on to for 53 years, 7 months, and 11 days and nights.
and the answer is,
Forever.
wow, just forever. What an incredible journey we've just unpacked. Seeing Fermina and Florentino navigate grief, judgment, and just time itself.
Yeah, from burning the past, literally, to sailing into this indefinite future on a decaying river. It says so much about resilience, doesn't it? About connection.
Absolutely. You've seen them shift from that, young, almost frantic passion to this calm, deep love that doesn't need anyone else's approval.
Yeah.
They define forever on their own terms.
Their refusal to fit into the neat boxes society has for old age. Their ability to find joy and comfort despite everything. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
It leaves us with a question, maybe. In a world that's always changing, what does choosing forever really mean? And what kind of unexpected freedom might we find if we embrace those later chapters of life with that same kind of open, defiant heart?
That's definitely something to ponder. A lot to consider from this deep dive.